So the action well and truly underway here for the penultimate round of the VMO Touring Car UK Championship here at Silverstone International as things are underway, and it is an absolutely titanic battle at the front of the field at the moment. Matt Richards leads the way, followed by Chris Butcher, Toby Davis, Scott Sovic, who's now just been passed by Dan Kell, who coming into this round is just 8 points behind Chris Butcher in the standings, as we see Karun Chandhok make his way through into club before they head down the international pit straight through into Abbey. Phil, already we are seeing quite a lot of action here out on the circuit.
Fully expecting this, especially at Silverstone. Always a good circuit for overtaking, especially on this international loop. As we're watching Karun Chandhok in the wonderful throwback Williams. The racing's tight, it's fast and close already, and we've seen a fastest lap come from Matt Richards as he tries to extend his lead out front. Yeah, really looking forward to this, especially with the overtaking opportunities that should be presented to these guys. As we can see some contact in the background, it looks like one of the MGs has gone off at Beckett's and hit the wall really badly. I think there's also one of the King's Dealer racing cars as well in the background, potentially has had a big shock as we follow Chandhok through Stowe, into Vale and then into the chicane, with Richards still in the lead and Butcher right beside him.
Now, I'm just wondering, that was an MG. We've got a new couple of additions this week, replacing Phil Morby in the number 14 Subaru is Louis Stewart, who was racing in the first season of the E-Team Brit GT Challenge in the Cinetic BMW Series. We've also got Jack Werrell in the Westek Autosport 650 MG6, as we've got a yellow in Sector 2, but coming into qualifying earlier on before this race, as we're now on to lap number 3 out of 16. I think it was Matt Richards that took pole position by just 60 thousandths, and then it was literally even Stevens for second and third between Butcher and Davis. So Richards leading by about just under 0.4 of a second as they go down the this will be the Hanger Straight. Now they're going to go into the right-hander here at Stowe, quickly on the brakes, trying to power through the corner. And you can just see how much commitment there is. Chris Butcher nearly taking a bit too much curb there in the 65 Smart Power Racing Vauxhall Astra as they head through the chicane at club before they come round and go across the start-finish line once again to go on to lap number 4. But at the moment it is Richards from Butcher. Toby Davis in third place ahead of Dan Kell. The returning Lewis McGlade rounds out the top 5 ahead of Mike Cooper, Scott Mitchell, Matt Webb, Karun Chandhok, and Smart Power Racing's Scott Sovic rounding out the top 10 positions. And you were right about the other King's Dealer racing car. It was Ed Straw, who is way down the order in 24th position at the moment. But we've had, that was Jean-Michel Loriot from Cadan Casual Apex. That was the MG that went off the circuit, and he's had an instant DNF as a result of it.
Indeed, and as you can see, they're going really wide, coming out of Beckett's and trying to take as much runoff as they can get away with. As Ben Willis goes wide, coming out of Beckett's as well. In the background, it looks as though Mike Cooper is potentially trying to see if he can get past Lewis McGlade for 5th place. Is no quarter being given there, and Chris Butcher doing what he does best. You know, championship leader running with Max Ballast on board, 2nd place on the road behind Matt Richards. And as we say, we're the penultimate round of the series tonight. After this, in 2 weeks' time, it's Brands Hatch on the GP circuit. So Butcher doing everything he can to score points and try and keep his gap to Dan Kell, who is his title rival. And if it means pushing Matt Richards and also having to deal with Toby Davis, who's running nicely in 3rd place at the moment in the other Vauxhall Astra, then he's going to have to make sure he banks those points early on.
And also good to see that Toby Davis has kept his word to me back at Knockhill a couple of weeks ago. The tartan is very much front and centre on the bonnet and also on the roof of the number 34 Vauxhall Astra. Really sets that sort of like cyan blue, if you will, from Polestar Racing, along with the deep purple, the magenta, the black and the whites. It just sets it off. It gives it that little bit of, I don't, you know, as the French would say, a little bit of je ne sais quoi. But it provides a really, really nice livery. But the top 3 at the moment, Phil, separated by just under a second, as we are now on lap number 5 out of 16. We go a little bit further back and we see the teammate of Toby Davis in the form of the number 44 Astra of Mike Cooper, keeping Lewis McGlade and Matt Webb in the 444 Simply Race Subaru Levorg. And they are battling away for what is 5th place. Just behind them is the, as I'm going to now call it, the Williams Renault 1990s tribute band in the form of Kurun Chandok. Fantastic livery. Great to see him back with us for another round. Looks like there's a little bit of a dice here because Scott Mitchell has got Scott Sovic just behind with the number 55 of Smile Power Racing, now trying to close on Kurun Chandok. Jack Nichols not too far away from this battle. Then a really good, impressive opening performance by Jack Werrell in the Westech Autosport number 650 MG, followed by R&Co Motorsports Chaz Draycott, fresh from his duty at the ADAC Total 24 Hours of the Nürburgring. And also Kurun Chandok has been travelling. He's recently been at the Russian Grand Prix at Sochi, working alongside David Croft in the Sky Sports F1 commentary box. So it's quite good to see all these people that go all over the place and then they get brought together thanks to sim racing.
Indeed. That's just what we like, isn't it? Go off and do your day jobs, enjoy all the motorsport fun. Just come back once a fortnight on a Tuesday to us and give us a cracking race every week, every fortnight. And so far, delivering quite nicely. Kurun had a lovely debut last time in Knockhill. Definitely with his 2 top 10 finishes that he took, was well in the mix and showing it once again. As we see McGlade trying to get past Cooper on the outside of Village. That's not sure if that's going to work. He's going to try and line him up for the kink, but yeah, it's not worked out too fast just yet as they come onto Beckett's. And yeah, he's trying to get the slipstream down the Hangar Straight, and the cars will increase their speed, be at max speed by the time they get to Stowe. He's definitely got the slipstream, as well as Matt Webb, who's going to see if he can try and gain any advantage from these two. McGlade jinking to the left, jinking to the right, a la Nigel Mansell 1987, showing my age.
Yeah, doing the dummy.
Worked.
Doing the dummy. Come on, Phil, get the terminology right.
That's it, doing the dummy, doing the Mansell. It's not worked just yet. However, Cooper staying ahead, doing his best to defend, and it's great to see Cooper back in, especially after his debut in the series last time out at Knockhill as well. It's great to see 2 Davis Racing Astras along with the Smile Power Racing Astras as well. Up front, Chris Butcher and Toby Davis really pushing Matt Richards. They are as close, you can essentially throw a cloth over the 3 of them. They're as close as you can get away with, as McGlade gets a little bit wide coming out of Abbey, coming into Village. Hard on the brakes, see the nose of the cars just dive down as they heavily brake into there, make their way through the link, and then as they come onto Beckett's, it's as much speed as they can get away with without going too wide and maximise the entry down the Hangar Straight.
So you can probably see, for those watching on the official respective YouTube channels, that we do have live timing. And the fastest lap of anybody at the moment is Matt Richards on a 1 minute 5.483, but he's only 0.2 of a second ahead of Chris Butcher. Toby Davis rounds out the top 3. And look how close Dan Kell is towards this top 3 scrap here, Phil. This is going to get rather interesting as we are round about the halfway point of this first of 3 16-lap races as Chaz Draycott and Jack Werrell trying to get past Aidan Millward. Now Werrell goes around the outside through the first part of the
stuff.
That was great stuff in the MG. Now Draycott gets through past the number 67 of Aidan Millward in the option 13 SimSport BMW. We've had another DNF, unfortunately, on what looks to be lap 3. Ed Straw from the King's Dealer Racing Team is out, so we are now down to 23 competitors. Some great battles up and down the order between these 3 here. So Jack Werrell doing a great job. Chaz Draycott, fresh from his antics at Knockhill, trying to chase the 650 MG down. And the number 67 of Aidan Millward not too far behind. Then you've also got Mike Bell in the lowest place Smile Power Racing car. He's down in 15th. Daniel Hyde is about 4.2 seconds ahead of E-Team Brits' Max Spooner, as Draycott trying to force the issue, trying to go nearly side by side is Sylvain Vessier from E-Team Brits, who gets a penalty, and up through towards Club. Draycott gets the inside line for the chicane, and once again that MG using that traction to absolute perfection through the second half of it. Draycott drifts a little bit wide, but he's going to try and power around the outside of the MG. Oh, now that was definitely a track limits excursion there for Chaz Draycott, but he keeps it planted. He's managed to get ahead of Jack Werrell up through into Abbey and Farm Curve. Aidan Millward thought he might have had an opportunity there, so Sylvain Vessier now in the pits for, I think that will be for track limits infringement, as the R Factor 2 software immediately recognises it on the system and will pull the car in on the very next lap. So that will mean that Sylvain Vessier will drop all the way down to the back of the 23-strong field that is still circulating. As we see that Karun Chandhok has now been passed by both the King's Racing duo of Scott Mitchell in 8th and Jack Nicholls in 9th. That's a bit
Contact.
that's a bit of door barging between Chandhok and Sovic there. So I think that was probably through going in towards Stowe and then coming through into Vale. But Chandhok in the Mercedes keeps it still in 10th position at the moment. So at the moment, we're on to lap 11 of 16. Richard's lead over Chris Butcher is less than a tenth and a half. Toby Davis now being dropped a little bit here in 3rd place. Dan Kell, Mike Cooper, Lewis McGlade, Matt Webb, Scott Mitchell, Jack Nicholls, Karun Chandhok round out the top 10. Scott Sovic, Chaz Draycott, Jack Werrell, Mike Bell and Aidan Millward complete the top 15 with Daniel Hyde, Daniel Slattery, Ben Willis, Max Spooner and Louis Stewart completing the top 20 with the E-Team Brit duo of Sandro Ballesteros fresh from his Junior Rotax podium this past weekend on the new X-Kart chassis on a Junior Rotax, a P2. Well done by that young man there, with teammate Bradley Brockies just behind. As looks like Louis Stewart in the Morby Motorsport Subaru has got past E-Team Brit team manager Max Spooner for 19th. Sylvain Vessier is down in 23rd place. But still, look at Mike Bell. He's now trying to hustle along Jack Werrell for 13th position.
He's definitely pushing him along as we go back to the front. And it's Matt Richards' fastest lap of the race so far at 1:05.483. As Butcher tries to see if he can close up any close. I think any closer he'd actually be sticking a hook in the back of the Focus and getting a proper tow back. Trying around the outside of Village through the link to see if he can try and get any advantage on the way through to Beckett, properly at the back of the Focus. He's really, really pushing to try and get the best positioning of the car possible to get that slipstream down the hanger straight. And Richards is defending all the way over to the left-hand side, moving now, doing the weaving trick. He moves over to the right-hand side of the circuit.
Sorry to cut across you there, but Mike Bell has just got past Jack Werrell for position. So Bell up into 13th. That would have been going through the loop and into Beckett's. So as now Richards going ultra defensive. Toby Davis puts on the brakes. That was a definite bit of a good old Scandinavian flick there. I think he didn't really mean to hit the brake pedal that hard, did Toby Davis, and all of a sudden that nearly caught him out unawares and nearly put him right into the back of the Astra of Chris Butcher. That's how hard they're pushing. And Toby Davis did say to me last time out, Phil, that he was going to be pushing for a win. That just shows it in spades, doesn't it?
There is commitment there, definitely. And the fact that he's not lost any ground to the front two is even better. He's sticking with the pair of them as Butcher is pushing Richards so hard. Davis is there to capitalise should anything that happen to these two. While just behind him, his teammate Mike Cooper is holding off Dan Kell and Lewis McGlade in a Zancho Simsport double assault on the back of the Vauxhall Astra. So both men either trying to make ground forward or defending, doing everything they can so far, as Butcher once again tries to see if he can get past Richards coming through into Stowe. He's not making it work, and that's allowing Davis to close up as he goes wide. Although Butcher's sticking to the outside now as they come into the chicane. Can he try and do the MG trick and hold the ground? He can't do it. He can't keep it, but he's still with Richards. Somehow we're almost on to lap 14. This has flown by already. Take a breath.
Yes, breathe, Butcher, Phil. Breathe. Yeah. Come on, man. Come on, work with me here.
That's
so now on to lap number 14. Richards going through Abbey near, I think the back end of not just his car, but Butcher's car, both stepping out, going through into Farm Curve. Butcher towards the outside, going through into Village, now into the loop, and that's a real good run there that Butcher's got, going through into the left-hander, and then they'll now go through into turn 5 through Beckett's, then onto the hanger straight, and this is where it could really pay to Chris Butcher's advantage. Now, if he gets a really good slipstream, they go under the bridge at around 200 kph. That's 125 miles an hour. And now down into the right-hander at Stowe. Down from 6, going through the corner at around 140 kph. That's over 85 miles an hour in 4th gear, up to 5th now. Through Vale, into Club. Heftily on the brakes from around... Yeah, it looks like Davis had a bit of a moment there, Phil. I think he just lost the back end of the car and
definitely lost ground. Yeah, there's been some contact there somewhere, and Davis has fallen back a bit closer towards his teammate Cooper.
Yep, who has done a really good job. He's actually got past Dan Kell. So in some respects, this is slightly playing into the hands of Chris Butcher. But there's another title we need to briefly talk about as we get towards the end of this race, as Jack Nicholls, now up into 10th position, having got past Scott Sobick, is Ben Willis. He is leading the independent standings ahead of Phil Morby. And the biggest thing here is, Phil, if Ben Willis scores 21 points this evening, he takes the independence title with a round to spare.
He does indeed. At the moment, though, he's also got Aidan Millward to deal with, and Millward's ahead in 15th place compared to Willis's 19th. So he's got some work to do to try and score some points. Obviously, the swings and roundabouts of success ballast and using the option tyre to play into the remaining 2 races of this evening. But he's going to have to work a bit harder to see if he can try and overtake Millward and get some ground between the two of them if he's going to try and seal the title this evening.
Yeah, well, the thing is, Phil, is that it's the hard compound that is the option tyre, and we have a total of 19 drivers out of this field that are using it. So we got we would have Alexander van der Voorde if he was here. Unfortunately, he's not. So Aidan Millward's using it. Toby Davis is getting it out of the way quickly. Ben Willis, Louis Stewart, Matt Webb, Daniel Hyde, Karun Chandhok, Ed Straw has managed to get his away after about 3 laps. So he'll now be on the prime tyre, which will be the medium compound. Jack Nicholls is on it, Daniel Slattery, Sylvain Versier, Sandro Ballesteros, Chris Butcher. A lot of people getting the option tyre out of the way because the mediums will have that little bit more pickup and that little bit more adhesion and be the faster tyre. So we're on to the 16th and final lap. And Matt Richards looks to have gotten away with this, despite the biggest amount of pressure from Butcher and Davis, as we are on board with Mike Cooper as they come through into club this time around. And it is the checkered flag. Matt Richards wins the first race of the evening here at Silverstone International. As I've just seen that Scott Sobick has just overtaken Jack Nicholls for 10th place. Butcher takes 2nd. Ahead of Toby Davis, Mike Cooper and Dan Kell round out the top 5. Lewis McGlade on his return to the series takes 6th ahead of the Team Simply Race Lavorg of Matt Webb. Scott Mitchell takes 8th, another top 10 finish for Karun Chandhok. Scott Sobick rounds out the top 10. Good effort by not just Jack Nicholls. I know he qualified a little bit higher. He finished in 11th ahead of Chaz Draycott, who made it up to 12th in the end. So a good small haul for Chaz there. He did take 4 points last time out in through both the first and third races at Knock Hill, as Max Spooner will cross the line in 22nd position. So Mike Bell takes 13th, Aidan Millward in 14th. Jack Werrell takes the last point here in the first of 3 16-lap races, totaling in each race 29.62 miles. So just over 88.8 miles of racing action here on the Virtual Motorsport Online Touring Car UK Championship penultimate round here at Silverstone International. Rounding out the order, Daniel Hyde and Daniel Slattery ran out the top 17 ahead of Louis Stewart. Ben Willis, 19th ahead of E-Team Brit 2s. Sylvain Versier with the 3 E-Team Brit BMWs of the 19 of Sandro Ballesteros, the number 63 of Max Spooner, and the number 105 of Bradley Brockies, making it to the end of the race. Ed Straw, unfortunately, a DNF on lap 3, with Jean-Michel Loriot being the one that got spat out and hit the barriers quite hard. That put him out on the very first lap of the race. So Chris Butcher, I would imagine, is going to slightly extend his championship lead over Dan Kell, who took 5th place. As you can see the race results from race 1 on your screen as we speak. But Phil, Silverstone, the home of British motorsport, a fantastic circuit. It's great that we've been able to return here. We've basically done what the BTCC haven't been able to achieve this year, but obviously the certain circumstances that has been circling the globe. It's really, really one of those things. How we can sort of go from there, really.
Indeed, I mean it is a situation where the BTCC was supposed to come here and have 2 visits to Silverstone this year, and as you say, due to the global circumstance we currently have, it's not due to happen. However, back in March, they were able to get some testing done using Media Day and the international circuit to let all the drivers get adapted and recognised to the international circuit and the challenges it offers compared to the national layout that they're used to using every season. So it's good to see something different, and it's been great to see these guys this evening on the first race already see what they can do with the cars, the setup, and how close the racing is as well. And as I normally say each fortnight, race 1, brilliant. Race 2 and 3, I think, are going to get even better now as the strategies play out, and the drivers are really pushing each other hard now as we come to the business end of the season, with tonight and then, as I say, Brands Hatch in 2 weeks' time to set all the various titles.
Yeah, so as you can see, our track map, 2.979 kilometres, 1.851 miles is the full length of the Silverstone International Circuit here. And you know, Phil, we've got 5 more races this season. We've got 2 more here at Silverstone International, and then we go back to the Garden of England. We head to Brands Hatch. We go to the full Grand Prix layout. You know, I think at the end of the day, we could be in for quite a good one this evening, couldn't we?
Definitely. Silverstone never ever lets you down. Like I said, the Nationals layout, as we know, hard racing, and it's possible to overtake almost every corner. From what I've seen so far in race 1 this evening, the international layout is putting up a very good case for these guys to showcase some more great racing, especially at the home of motorsport, of British Motorsport. So yeah, really looking forward to seeing what they can come up with race 2. So lots of action in race 1. I would say the cleanest race so far. I'm not trying to jinx proceedings. We'll see how races 2 and 3 pan out. But yeah, it's definitely been a great idea to visit the international layout of this circuit and see what the guys can do there and the challenges they face.
Indeed. So it looks like we've got a warm-up underway, but myself and Phil will be back in just a couple of moments' time to continue ongoing coverage of the penultimate round of the 2020 Virtual Motorsport Online Touring Car UK Championship here at the virtual setting of the home of British Motorsport, Silverstone International. Back in a moment, folks. Well, welcome back for, it was a very frantic start to this evening's proceedings, wasn't it, Phil? But we managed to keep our eyes on what was going on throughout the action during race one. We've got another 2 races to go, both 16 laps in duration here at the Silverstone International Circuit. So we've got nigh on nearly another, we've got over another 60 miles worth of racing action for the folks watching at home, haven't we?
We have indeed, and looking forward to every single mile of it that's due to come up. As I say, everyone doing really well in race one. It would actually look quite clean. I think the biggest moment we saw was Toby Davis slightly losing it and keeping it under control as best he could. Proper Scandinavian flick action into the chicane from Toby. And as well as that, so lots of clean overtaking as well. The guys really trying hard to respect each other so far in race one. We'll see if that continues into race two. And obviously, like I say, with the success ballast changes, everyone who finished where they did in race one gains success ballast for race two as it works out. So Chris Butcher, I don't think he's going to, well, he tried his best to pass Matt Richards in race one and really did seem to be the quicker of the two, but Richards managed to keep him behind and almost wonders slightly if there's a bit of team tactics already sort of backing him up and trying to keep Kell in the picture. I don't know. It may be the conspiracy theory in me already.
Well, there's definitely no conspiracy theory, thanks to Jack Werrell, also a fellow commentator. He said, well, that was a great debut race in the championship. Well, Jack, I think you pulled off the move of the evening.
Yes.
Towards the outside of Chance Draycott and Aidan Millward earlier on in race one. He's saying, great fun, can't wait for the next 2 races. Well, good luck, buddy. Not that you're going to need it. I mean, if you can pull an outside overtake on somebody ran through club, you've definitely got my vote there. But the biggest things, if Ben Willis doesn't score any points tonight, he's got 2 more chances. He's got to score an average of 10.5 points per race this evening, Phil, to secure that independence title. And that's not going to be easy, is it? Because, I mean, I'm looking at, I think he's had this season 2, it's now 3 0-point finishes this season. So he's got a tall order to fill, hasn't he?
He has, and that's what's going to hurt as it gets towards the end of the season. Now, as we are, it's the 0 finishes that hurt the point score, and you have to work that bit harder if you're able to be consistent enough to keep the points rolling in and finish every race, as well as being on circuit with 22, 23, 24 other cars. You're doing the right thing, but he's got those to contend with. So all he can do, races 2, and race 3, is just push forward. The aim of the game being is Phil Morby isn't here to just get ahead of Aidan Millward and try and extend that points gap as best he can.
Right, we're on the formation lap for race 2 out of 3 here at Silverstone International. Let's have a look at the grid. So it is the finishing order from race number 1. So Matt Richards in the number 4 from Sancho Simsport will line up on pole position. And he'll be ahead of the number 65 of Chris Butcher from Smile Power Racing. Then it is a Davis Racing duo on row 2. Toby Davis and Mike Cooper. Then it's Dan Kell and Lewis McGlade and all Sancho Simsport row 3 ahead of Matt Webb from teamsimplyrace.co.uk and Scott Mitchell from Kings Racing rounding out the top 4 rows. Good to see Karun Chandok starting from the inside of row 5 with Scott Sovic completing the top 10. Then it's Jack Nichols and Chance Draycott. I never thought I'd have those 2 lining up alongside each other on a virtual grid, let alone this one. That's row 6. Mike Bell and Aidan Millward, row 7. Jack Werrell starts from 15th with Daniel Hyde completing the 8th row alongside him. Louis Stewart and Ben Willis complete row 9 with Sylvain Vessier and Sandro Ballesteros rounding out the top 20, followed by Max Spooner, Bradley Brockes, Ed Straw and Jean-Michel Loriot rounding out the it says 24 according to the timing screen here. It looks like we might have a driver missing, so to speak. It's got 25 on the screen, but it's got 24 on the timing screen. Not too sure if there might be a slight glitch there, but we are about to get things well and underway here for the second and penultimate race this evening. Another 16 laps to go here at Silverstone International. As you can see how eager Ed Straw is, that the back end of that Mercedes bumping up and down a little bit as he's trying to find the biting point to let the car go as we get going once again. Down towards Abbey for the first time for the first of 16 laps as they stream their way through into Abbey, into Farmers. Oh, we've got one of the, that looks to be Scott Sovic that went wide going out of Abbey there and went straight into the side of one of the King's racing cars as they all filter their way through. Looks like Karun Chandok trying to get his elbows out in the process as it's now side by side between the two leaders as Butcher and Richards trying to go side by side through Beckett's down the hanger straight. Toby Davis gets a great run out of the corner as we now make our way down towards Stowe for the first time. Richards looking towards the inside of Butcher, but then has to slot him back behind. Davis. So Davis is now up into second, and he's challenging for the lead. Yellow in sector number 1. But a great start from Toby Davis. I think he might have just caught Matt Richards out a little bit there, Phil.
Looks like it, and he's got the drive out of Beckett's as Dan Kelly's trying to get past Mike Cooper coming into it, and he's been successful going into the club chicane as Butcher tries to make a small gap whilst Richards pushes Davis to see if he can get back into second place. So already the games have begun. Butcher is out front, something he wasn't able to do in race 1 as they go on to lap 2, and Richards is trying to see if he can get past Toby Davis and try and get back up front. The numbers game is going to be involved here as well, as we well know, between Smile Power Racing and Zancho Simsport, and Davis Racing are currently the flies in the ointment in that particular battle as everyone's attacking each other.
Right, we've got a replay here. Now, this is from, that is the number 5, and that is Mike Bell, and he gets turned, well, I think that was somewhat of his own making. He went round the outside of Karun Chandok. Max Spooner has suddenly DNF'd, and I'm wondering what happened there. Did he get turned around and sent off the circuit? Not too sure. I'm sure I might find out if he decides to ping me on Discord at any given moment, but he's out. That puts us down to 23 drivers. We're going to have a replay here as so Spooner gets
ouch.
Now that's really, from that sort of angle, it was very, very difficult for me to sort of see what was happening, but Butcher and Davis now pass Richards. Scott Mitchell has just put in a personal best. Scott Sovic has just put in a 1 minute 5.525 in his Vauxhall Astra. As now Matt Richards finds himself coming under pressure from the likes of Mike Cooper and then his two teammates, Dan Kell and Lewis McGlade. But this is giving Butcher all the advantage that he needs to keep that lead in the standings. Scott Mitchell and Jack Nichols up into 7th and 8th, and now Ben Willis starting to make some inroads as all. You can just see when they wallop the curb going through club. I saw it from both Jack Werrell and Chaz Draycott. So Ben Willis now effectively has 2 of those 21 points available. As we've got one, that's Sylvain Vessier that I think has now got his way past Aidan Millward. So the E-Team Brit 2, 129. Is now up into what is effectively, I think he's, now I'm just sort of seeing where he is. He's showing his 19th on the timing screens, but I think he might be a little bit further up than that. But in the meantime,
I think the team games have begun at the front, actually, Alex, because it looks as though Dan Kell's now up to 3rd, Matt Richards has dropped to 5th, and Scott Mitchell has moved up to 4th place as Mitchell defends from Richards and McGlade. Richards getting back on the inside into Beckett. So Dan Kell up to 3rd place and doing what he needs to try and reduce or limit the damage in the points race between him and Chris Butcher, who's now running away with a lead of over 1.2 seconds ahead of Davis.
Right, here's a replay. Oh, now there was a little touch. So Richards hits the left corner. Oh, and he gets a little bit of a touch from Mike Cooper. So Mike Cooper was the instigator on that one. I think that looks to be a racing incident. And that allowed the likes of Scott Mitchell, who's fighting tooth and nail, as is Jack Nichols. And then factor Matt Webb into that. And then Scott Sovic as Karun Chandok now completes the top 10 positions. Chaz Draycott, in the meantime, unfortunately, has dropped all the way down to 22nd. He's actually behind Ed Straw. As Matt Webb looking to go towards the inside of Lewis McGlade, who I think had a little bit of a lock up there. But there is Webb. Scott Sovic trying to go past him. I think Matt Webb just might have got a little bit caught out there in the Subaru, and he dropped back as a result. And now it's an Insert Kings Racing team squabble now, as Nichols ahead. Is he ahead of Scott Mitchell? No, he isn't, but he's going to get the run coming out of Beckett's. Down the Hanger Straight, as now it is side by side between Dan Kell and Toby Davis heading into Stowe. Davis towards the outside of the Ford Focus. Richards in fourth. And now up the inside goes Nichols on Mitchell. And then Mitchell gets the switchback going through Stowe. Now into Vale. So the number 22 Mercedes ahead of his teammate. And that's one of the funniest things, because earlier on this season, let's not forget, Phil, they had differing colours on their Mercedes. And now with the introduction of King's Dealer Racing Team, that's all gone a bit asunder. And they've decided to do what Sancho Simsport and Smile Power Racing done. Yeah, we'll match it. We'll see if we can pick them. We'll see if we can confuse the two that are on the microphones. Davis runs very, very wide, and that's through Farm. That did not help his third place there whatsoever. But he got away with that, and I think Matt Richards has started to close up as a result of it.
He has. I mean, it's nothing like making a commentator's life easier, as obviously Jack would know, along with Chaz, by having the same colour schemes. A couple of different coloured mirrors, guys, that'd help us out. But we'll work with that, and that's fine. In the meantime, Davis is trying to make some ground back on Dan Kell, whilst Chris Butcher is now almost 3 seconds to the good in his lead. So he is romping away at the front of this field and extending the advantage he has, whilst the two Kings Racing Mercedes battle. Whilst in the background, all contact there between Mike Cooper and Karun Chandok coming out of Stowe and on the way into the chicane to see if that's worked out any better. It looks as though Cooper's actually got ahead of Chandok as they come around to complete the end of the lap there. And yes, it is now, the two Mercedes are tied together, and if they can work together and try and move forward, they can gain some ground on the guys in front, with Richards solidly in fourth place just behind Toby Davis. And in the meantime, it looks as though Dan Kell is closing the gap to Chris Butcher. So he's definitely pushing to see if he can minimise the damage to his championship rival in front.
Yeah, I'm just keeping an eye on Ben Willis at the moment, because he's now 1 place behind Karun Chandok, which means that he's got 4 points in his grasp at the moment. Don't forget, if you want to get interactive, use the hashtags TCUK and VMO. As now Ben Willis closes on Karun Chandok and loses the back end. And now I've just given him the commentator's curse. Sorry, Ben.
Yes.
Sorry, Ben. But the thing is it's something that we've got to talk about. I want to see if that Subaru can come fighting back. Because effectively, he's got no ballast in that car, but the Subaru, if I'm honest here, has not got the get up and go that we've seen.
No.
Like when we had quite a few other drivers, as that's one of the Sancho cars going wide, and that was Matt Richards. And that was going through Farm. He literally straight line Farm and went straight to Village without going through another county in the process. And that really, there'll be a certain amount of times that the system software will pick that up and go, well, actually, you've just done that 3 times in a row. You're getting an instant drive-through. And we saw that with Sylvain Vestier in the first race. Vestier now down all the way in 23rd position. And he's got another penalty. So that's probably why, as a result of it. But great battle here between the two Kings Racing teammates. This has been absolutely fair. Firm but fair between Mitchell and Nichols in the battle for 5th place. Lewis McGlade not too far behind. Scott Sovic, Matt Webb, Mike Cooper now up into 10th place ahead of Karun Chandok. Ben Willis still, as there is Jack Werrell. He rounds out the top 15 as Daniel Hyde and Louis Stewart trying to chase the MG down. I love the fact that it's a bit like Two-Face out of Batman. That
it is.
Isn't it?
It is.
You got,
just thinking that.
Yeah. Good thing that good, great minds think alike there, Phil.
Indeed. Yeah, absolutely. It's good stuff. Do like that, and obviously the different liveries we're seeing on show this evening. Really happy to see the tartan back, by the way, as you were saying earlier.
Yes.
After Toby Davis's 2 wins at Knockhill last time out, really good to see it on there. And obviously in tribute to his grandmother, but also I think it's a bit of a good luck charm because he started race 1 quite close at the front and had a top 3 finish, and he's still running closely as well, just half a second off the back of Matt Richards and from the podium position as Richards gets a little bit squirrely coming out of Stowe and they head into the chicane, and Toby Davis again getting a bit squirrely himself as he comes through the club chicane and making their way around to the starts at the lap 10.
Yeah, so fast approaching the conclusion of this second race. We're past half-time on the laps counting down. We're going to have a little bit of a replay here, and that is from Bradley Brockies going completely sideways in the 105 BMW 125i M Sport, just behind the number 17 of Ed Straw, who's now in 19th behind Chaz Draycott. Bradley Brockies actually rounds out the top 20. But I think the main sort of target, and this is being realistic, even though you can't really say that to a racing driver, but we'll talk about Toby Davis for a minute. Look at the gap between him, Matt Richards, and Dan Kell. Okay, Davis knows that, I can't go for the victory. However, he could go for second position, and they're covered by about, probably about a couple of seconds between the three of them.
Yeah.
So... and I'm looking at the lap times between Davis, Richards, and Kell. And on the best lap, Toby Davis was 90 thousandths slower than Matt Richards. So the Focus and the Astra seem to be quite comparable on pace. And yeah, Toby Davis has just had a bit of a howler of a lap. He was 7 tenths down off of Matt Richards. So that car now starting to struggle. And this is where the big question is. Did Toby Davis use the option tyre? He did, but in race 1. He's using the medium this time around. So we've only got a handful of drivers. Jack Werrell's actually using them to good effect at the minute. But he's actually now retired. He's DNF'd, so whether he's had a moment, so there might have been a coming together between him and Sylvain Vessier, possibly. Not too sure. We might find out a bit later in the Discord chat. So Sandro Ballesteros from E-Team Brit rounds out the 21 that are still running around the circuit here. Lap number 11 out of 16, and Scott Sovic getting really up close and personal with Lewis McGlade, who has got Jack Nicholls right front and centre as they now go into the approach in towards Club Corner before they power out and head towards the start-finish line here on the International Pit Straight. So we are using the 1.851 mile circuit variation as the drivers now hustle their way through the sweeping right-hander at Abbey, through into the left at Farm, and then through into Village before a deep braking zone, before they go into the left-hander at the Loop at turn 4, before the right-hander at Beckett's for turn 5, which brings them onto the Hangar Straight as Mike Cooper just literally testing the true limits of adhesion on those tyres as he goes through what would have been Village there, as everyone's trying to break each other's toe here. You can just see how Nicholls goes one way, like McGlade follows, Sovic follows, looks up the inside going through into Stowe, can't get past, gets a bit closer in the braking zone. Nicholls takes a bit more apex through Stowe than the two behind, and now McGlade goes defensive going into the chicane before Club Corner.
It's almost as if it's based on the line they're taking out of Beckett's. They're coming out with as much speed and grip as they can get away with out of Beckett's and coming out very wide. And that's almost forcing then the car in front to take a defensive line and veer over to the right and then try and break the toe, as you say, as if it's almost a natural thing. I'm almost thinking like motorcycle racing. They try and weave into the middle of the track and go back again. As we're seeing Matt Richards and Dan Kell disputing second place. Now, considering Kell's chasing Butcher in the points, you'd think Richard would be more playing a rear gunner role, but I suppose if he can try and get back in front and close down the gap, although we are 3 laps from the end of the race, so Butcher with his lead of 3.5 seconds is really secure in front, as we see Lewis McGlade and Jack Nicholls going toe to toe, and in fact Scott Sovic 3 wide down the Hangar Straight. This is going to get messy with Nicholls in the middle. McGlade, in fact Nicholls pulls into the right. McGlade has the inside line, but Nicholls is staying on the outside. Sovic still keeping this 3 wide. Wow. As we go into the chicane, Nicholls defends. Can he hold off? Yes, he can. Although
but look at Matt Webb. Look at Matt Webb. Oh my goodness me! McGlade goes round the outside of Nichols going through into Club Corner as Cooper and Webb go literally side by side, and Cooper gets fired off into the barriers. So that could be the 44's race coming to a disruptive end there. As between
Nichols coming back at McGlade again.
Sovik still trying to make it through wide, going into, what was it? Village. That was brave. That was very brave indeed. I cannot believe what I'm seeing. But Jack Nichols, I must be completely honest, that the rear of that Mercedes A45 is going to look rather second-hand and a bit bruised and battered. The amount of times that he's been hit from behind, courtesy of Lewis McGlade. But they do say that all's fair in rubbing and racing, eh, Phil?
And he's keeping the tight line as well. You can see him staying all over to the right-hand side. It is fair racing between them as McGlade tries to go around the outside at Stowe. Nichols has got the inside line, stays ahead, and Sovik and Webb are waiting. They are there should something happen to Nichols and McGlade. Although Nichols stays in front again as we go into Club Chicane. Sovik on the inside of McGlade this time, holding him up.
But the thing was that Nichols got a little tap from McGlade. Sovik went up the inside. The pair clashed door panels. Webb's right in the thick of things, and he's got the ringside seat. So Jean-Michel Loriot now gets a penalty, and as a result of that incident between Webb and Cooper is a DNF. So we're down to 20 competitors as we're now on to the penultimate lap as Jack Nichols looks to have gotten away. I think the little bit of contretemps between him and Lewis McGlade, they're not quite over yet as they go to side by side through into Village, into the right at Beckett's, through the loop. As this time McGlade runs wide. Nichols goes towards the inside of the Ford Focus. Down the hangar straight they come. And this will give a real good opportunity. Scott Sovik, what are you doing?
Love
Please,
it.
not
Absolutely
wide,
love it.
Not 3 wide through Stowe. Nichols will have the inside run. He gets the position, but Scott Sovik keeping it planted around the outside as McGlade hits the back of Nichols once again. And Sovik has mugged the pair of them. He kept it planted through Stowe, and he's got through to Vale, but Nichols back up the inside through into the chicane. Heading towards Club Corner. Sovik might just about hang on to this as Nichols drifts a little bit wide. McGlade gets past 2. We've got a yellow in Sector 2 as a result of that. Matt Webb has just been waiting for the chapters to unfold in this race. 16 of them thereof as we go on to the 16th, or 15 as we go on to the last lap. And it's still all to play for in this battle. Nichols runs a little bit wide going through Abbey. Compromises himself, loses a little bit of time to both McGlade and Sovik. McGlade up the inside of Sovik, going through into Village. Now into the left at the loop. Now down towards Beckett's, as you can just see the bump there. It threw all 4 wheels of McGlade's Focus up into the air, as now Nichols gets a really good run coming out of Beckett's, as again we're getting very, very close to the end of this race. Chris Butcher is going to win it by a consummate country mile, and here is Chris Butcher. And this time he now further extends his championship lead here at Silverstone International. The number 65 of Smile Power Racing's Chris Butcher wins race 2 here, and it will be Kell beating Richards in a duel between the Sancho Simsport cars. There's a little bit of contact there for Jack Nichols, unsettles the back end of the Mercedes, but keeps himself ahead of Matt Webb. Toby Davis takes 4th. Scott Mitchell, another top 5 finish for the Kings Racing 22. Scott Sovik in 6th, ahead of Lewis McGlade, Jack Nichols, Mike Bell. Ben Willis, in the meantime, has just secured 6 points, and he's got 15 to go to secure that title. Can he do it in one race? I don't know. We'll find out later. Karan Chandok takes 11th ahead of Chance Draycott in the R&Co Motorsports Ford Focus. Louis Stewart takes his first points finish in this in 13th ahead of Aidan Millward, with Daniel Hyde rounding out the top 15. It was close, but no cigar for Ed Straw, 1 place away from getting another points finish. Bradley Brockies, Sandro Ballesteros and Matt Webb actually round out the top 19 drivers. Unfortunately, DNFs for Jean-Michel Loriot, Mike Cooper, Sylvain Vestier. Looks like Jack Werrell came out and then went back into the pits. Max Spooner retired on the very first lap, and the driver that was missing, Daniel Slattery, the MG, unfortunately, he did not take the start of the race. But that was a very interesting race. You did say that I think you might have jinxed things a little bit there, Phil, because effectively you went, well, race 1 was the cleanest one we've ever seen. Race 2, it was a bit more elbows out. Race 3, just around the corner, folks. Another 16 laps, another 29.62 miles here as we are fast approaching the conclusion of the penultimate round of the 2020 Virtual Motorsport Online Touring Car UK Championship with myself, Alex Goldschmidt, and Phil Kinch. Will be back in just a couple of moments' time. So for those wondering about what sim racing is coming up later on this week, well, this week, a community that I'm very much involved with, SimSport Racing, is hosting a 12-hour charity event taking place this coming October 3rd, and we have qualifying tomorrow night. We are raising money for Mind, which has been around for over 7 decades, helping with regards to mental health problems for individuals that are struggling with problems through day-to-day life, not being able to function properly. So it's an event where we have some high-profile sim racers joining a fantastic grid combined of GT3 and GT4 machinery. Here's a look forward to what you can expect this coming weekend. It's going to be a howitzer. Yeah, so qualifying for that event takes place tomorrow night. I will be on commentary duties. GT3 and GT4 will have their separate qualifying sessions, but we've just been informed who gets. I'm sure this guy wasn't quite expecting it, but Chaz Draycott is on pole position for the reverse grid draw between positions 6 and 12. That's going to make for something rather interesting for race 3, as it normally does, wouldn't you say, Phil?
Oh, yeah. Definitely, we are in for a barnstormer of the third and final race this evening. I'm sort of looking at the watch and thinking, where has time gone? It's flown by. But yes, Chaz in the front. His time to shine after returning back at Knockhill 2 weeks ago, and as he said during the interviews, thoroughly enjoyed being back in the sim racing setup, and also happy to be back in action again. So definitely see what he's capable of in the third race of the evening.
Yeah, so there is another warm-up session underway as we speak. So we will wait to see how the grid sort of pans itself out for this evening. But Phil, I think that was really, really good for the likes. I mean, Ben Willis has scored 5 points. But obviously, for those wondering about the results, yes, they are provisional. There are normally stewards' inquiries and protests after every single race evening we have here at VMO, but it's part and parcel of sim racing. It's in most championships anyway. But 2 weeks' time, the Garden of England, Brands Hatch Grand Prix, it just feels like the real thing, doesn't it?
It does.
I think onto all these great circuits, and we're going to go back to where it all started, but we're going to the full track this time, and that's where the real big stones are going to be thrown. And they're not just pebbles; they're going to be literally like boulders being catapulted from car to car. Whilst we see, the championship dynamics, between the likes of Chris Butcher, who extends the lead again over Dan Kell. Sancho Simsport playing the team game. They look to have the edge on Smile Power Racing once again after the first 2 races this evening. And then obviously the independence title. So 3 titles still very much up for grabs. And I think we're going to go right down to the wire on all 3 of them.
I think we are as well. And if you throw in the other dynamic of you're going to have 24, 25 cars, as well as these titles all being decided on the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit, 25 cars, all battling hard for position and pushing as hard as they can in the last round of the year. Elbows out, go for glory. As they say, you are remembered for the last race of the season and how well you perform. And if you win that last race of the season, normally going into next time out next season, that's the first thing people think of: who won the last race of the season, who performed, who showed off. So there is so much glory to be had at Brands, and we still have 1 race to go here at Silverstone on the international circuit, and I absolutely do think we are in for a humdinger.
I completely agree. We're getting towards the we've got about 2.5 minutes worth of warm up left before the third and final race. Another 29.6 miles. So the drivers sort of trying to get themselves steeled and ready. And I think the one that's got to really steel himself is Chaz Draycott this evening.
He is. He's going to, if he can get a good start off the line, as it's been proven, actually. I mean, we've had 2 heavy cars take race wins in the form of Matt Richards and Chris Butcher. So Chaz, if he's not carrying any weight on board, he's got a fighting chance if he can get a good start off the line and have a gap behind him as he gets onto the hangar straight of having a decent showing. And I'm pretty sure he will push as hard as he can for that.
Speak of the man, there he is on your screens. He's actually streaming live via Twitch. So we will can sort of see what his little he's interacting with some of his Twitch followers. So good to have Chaz with us. I know he's going to do his level best to get going. Fresh from his trips over to Germany. I think it was the first time he'd actually been, and he had an absolute blast of a time, despite the fact there was a 9+ hour red flag.
Yes, there was.
Which meant that the race restarted at 8 o'clock in the morning. Everyone got a bit of welcome shut-eye, apart from those that were repairing cars in the garages. So it's going to be quite interesting to see. I mean, Chaz, in 12th place, you you won't have any sort of ballast as such. And it looks like that Karun Chandok might not be taking up the grid. I know that Phil did mention it to me. I think that looks to be the case because if memory serves me correctly, as Chaz would have been on pole position, he would have had Karun Chandok alongside, wouldn't he?
Which is a shame because that would have been good to see Karun on the front row and to see what he could do with his chance to shine as well. So, but yes, we'll definitely obviously be keeping an eye on Chaz and also the championship protagonists behind to see how that works out before, obviously, as we say, we're really excited for the final round, but we still have the one race to go this evening with so many variables involved to see how this will go. You know, see how Chaz goes at the front of the field. If Chris Butcher can further extend his advantage over Dan Kell, or if Dan Kell can try and close the gap, and also if the Sancho Simsport Fords can also play the team game and score more points over Smile Power Racing. I haven't tripped over that one yet this evening, he says, touching wood.
The false teeth have been secured with Fixodent this evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, we're almost on the verge of rivets.
And just more, I think it's more like triple the dose that he would probably normally use, right, Phil?
How did you know?
It was a random guess, mate.
Just random, yeah. We're going to get it right this evening. But yes, triple dose, and they're stuck in good and proper.
As they say, start as you mean to go on.
Indeed.
But the driver that will be lining up against Chaz Draycott, Ben Willis.
Wow, and Aidan Millward's down in 13th, so Willis has a big opportunity.
He does.
As well.
Well, because effectively, Phil, if he finishes third, he takes the independent title. Ben, no pressure.
No pressure.
Right,
Chaz,
so...
no pressure.
Oh, dearie me. This is all going to go horribly wrong.
Oh, yeah.
We know it. Well, let's really get things underway with the third and final 16-lap race. We go into battle for 3 more races. It's been a total of 30 races. Oh, I don't know where the time's gone. But let's have a look at the grid for the third and final race here at Silverstone International. So, reverse grid pole for Chaz Draycott in the number 10, flashing away on the headlights there. Ben Willis, 1 step away, effectively de facto independent champion. He's ahead of Mike Bell with Jack Nicholls alongside Lewis McGlade. Scott Sovic round out row 3. Scott Mitchell and Toby Davis round out row 4 ahead of Matt Richards and Dan Kell, who complete the top 10. Chris Butcher and Louis Stewart. Now, that's an interesting dynamic on row 6. Aidan Millward and Daniel Hyde round out the top 14 positions. Ed Straw starts from 15th this time, ahead of Bradley Brockies and Sandro Ballesteros, with Matt Webb rounding out the top 9 rows. Mike Cooper will start from 19th on the inside of row 10, and alongside him completing the top 20 is E-Team Brit 2's Sylvain Vessier. Jack Werrell in the Westech Autosport 650 MG starts from 21st position, ahead of Jean-Michel Loriot, Max Spooner and Daniel Slattery. So unfortunately, no Karun Chandok, whether he's had a technical disconnect as Chaz now weaving the focus from side to side, getting those tyres and brakes warmed up.
Concentration, look at it. He knows he's got his chance to shine and he needs to get the best out of the car as soon as those lights go out and get him off the line.
So they now come through Club, and Chaz Draycott will lead them on to the grid, followed closely by Ben Willis. So it's a front-wheel drive Focus versus a rear-wheel drive Subaru on the front row. Oh, that just brings anticipation in its own right, as you can see the arrow just in front of Chaz telling him where his grid position is, and also showing the outline of the grid position. That's actually quite a good thing. A lot of driver assists on R-Factor 2. And I can sort of sense that Chaz might be starting to sweat a little bit now. Bless him. But a good sport as always, and he's having a giggle as well. So we'll find out very, very shortly when we get the green lights to go racing for the final time here at Silverstone International. Race 3, 16 laps, ready to get underway at a moment's notice. So it is Draycott versus Willis on the front row. Green flag is about to be shown to let the hounds loose here at the home of British Motorsport. We're off and away and racing as there is the yellow very briefly. And there is, that looks like Ed Straw has not even gotten off the grid. And that Mercedes is crabbing as Ben Willis shoots off into the lead, going through Abbey for the first time. It's, Draco spun around through. And I bet you there's a few choice words there. Yes, that's a real shame. He was running P3, he got turned around. I think that might have been, there's been more dramas down the back end of the field. But Ben Willis has already started trying to get away from Mike Bell. Now, look at it this way. Willis, if he keeps the lead, I don't think he will keep the lead. He's got Mike Bell bearing down up his rear exhaust pipes. Scott Mitchell rounds out the top three, so it was either Mitchell or Nichols that spun Chaz Draycott around going through into Farm Curve. And I'd like to see a replay of that. I'm sure that we'll have one, as it's door banging between Toby Davis and Jack Nichols going into the chicane. They're both not giving each other any quarter. Nichols is trying to force the issue. And right behind them is Scott Sobick, Matt Richards, Dan Kell, Chris Butcher and Aidan Millward, who round out the top 10. Nichols still putting the elbows out on Toby Davis and keeps fourth at the moment as they come across the line. But now Davis goes up ahead, going into Abbey. Nichols goes a bit sideways up towards the inside. Oh, that was close. Through into Farm. Now in towards the right-hander at Village as it's three abreast, and that's Richards toward the outside of Davis. Oh, Davis on two wheels as he collides with Jack Nichols. Oh my goodness! And tank slapper. He got a little bit more of a contact, and he gets a little nudge from behind from his teammate. Toby Davis has tumbled like a pebble thrown quite violently into a small pond.
Wow. Breathe. Wow.
That's Phil's catchphrase now. Breathe. And it gets a laugh from both of us.
Indeed. In the meantime, Mike Bell's passed Ben Willis, and Mike Bell passed Ben Willis for the end of lap 1, so he's got the lead in the Small Power Racing Astra, with Ben Willis just under half a second behind him, and Scott Mitchell running in third. So Matt Richards, Jack Nichols rounding out the top 5, and at the moment Dan Kell is 2 places ahead of Chris Butcher. Dan Kell in 6th, Sobick in 7th, and Butcher running in 8th. So he's closing the gap as Mike Bell sets the early fastest lap of the race.
Oh, and there's one of the E-Team
Brits.
Yeah, one of the E-Team Brit cars being spat out. I think that might have been, let's see, it was Sandro Ballesteros that now tumbles down the order. Puts him behind his team boss, Max Spooner, as Matt Webb up the inside jumps over the sausage curbs, trying to get past Toby Davis. Oh, the pair collide. Oh, Davis has rolled! Davis has rolled on lap 3, and Matt Webb gets the hit in the process, and that was probably from Sylvain Vessier. Oh, my goodness. Toby Davis, I think there's a complete DNF from that Vauxhall Astra. Yeah. I think that is his evening done and dusted. No word of a lie there. Wow.
Definitely all elbows out in race 3 then. So they are really, really going for it. Although at the front, the fight between Butcher, Sovic and Kell remains the same, with Nichols staying ahead as the in the 5th place Mercedes. We'll see the replay of this. Now you can see Matt Webb and Toby Davis pushing to each other as they come into the link, and yeah, they are just turning in. Matt Webb turning to the left, and it's sent Davis over. Lots of contact there in a big roll as he's come to a complete halt.
Both of them are out. DNF'd already. But there was one benefit of that. We got to see the lovely tartan, didn't we?
We did, yes. That's
so behind every cloud there is a silver lining, but unfortunately not the cloud that Toby Davis really wanted there, Phil.
No.
But if I'm honest here, look at what is happening. We've got Mike Bell, Ben Willis, and Scott Mitchell rounding out the top 3. Ed Straw being chased down by Sandro Ballesteros in the battle for what is 20th position. Draycott has recovered. He is now up into 16th position. Now, let's not forget, he was 12th place. So in terms of ballast, he would not have any. So that Focus should be a bit of a rocket ship as well. McGlade gets tangled into by Daniel Hyde from Cadan Casual Apex. And did you notice that lag spike just there?
Yeah.
Hyde just literally, that was a massive lag spike. And just behind, McGlade's gone round. So whether the lag spike has now happened again going through Club, and that has caused McGlade to be turned around by Hyde, and that has allowed Mike Cooper to go up the inside into what is now 11th position. And just up ahead, they've got Louis Stewart in the number 14 Morby Motorsport Subaru Levorg. one of the good things about Louis is that he will go and just run his own race. I remember seeing him in the E-Team Brit GT3 Challenge and Cinetic BMW Series. He was in the lower category. I think if memory serves me correctly, he finished second of the season as Scott Willis trying to force the issue for second on Ben Willis. And effectively, Ben Willis, if he stays either in second or third, he's got that independent title sewn up on exactly the amount of points that he needs. He's got 6 points at the moment, so 17 will bring him to 23 points. As we're now going to complete lap number 5, will be on to lap number 6 of 16. Jean-Michel Loriot now gets a penalty. Sylvain Vessier, in the meantime, has also unfortunately retired on lap number 3. So I think he might have had an incident there, not too sure. Jack Werrell now gets a penalty as Scott Mitchell is being chased down by Matt Richards for third place. Matt Richards looking to go up the inside of the number 22 from Kings Racing. Mitchell still powers out of the corner, keeps around the Ford Focus and stays on the back bumper of Ben Willis. Really great battling between this lot. And look at the train there. You've got the Ben Willis train there as Nichols now looking towards the inside of Matt Richards going through into Stowe Corner. So good racing once again from the likes of Mitchell and Nichols. They really... Now look at it this way. SRR Motorsport were third in the standings coming into this round. And with the performances that both Jack Nichols and Scott Mitchell have shown this evening, Kings Racing are not that far away from possibly getting into the top 3. 10 laps to go. Lap 7 of 16 we're on to now. Willis is now about 0.3 of a second ahead of Scott Mitchell as well. Now that was very, very drifty there, I think, from both the likes of Matt Richards and also Jack Nichols. They're literally line of stone between this quartet here. 4 little ducks all in a row, being led by a Subaru, as Richards trying to outfox Mitchell, trying to go up the inside through onto the hangar straight. Nichols right in the toe of the number 4. As they now go down towards Stowe Corner, and they've got Dan Kell and Chris Butcher not too far behind, as Richards looks to be now up into third place as Nichols goes towards the outside. Willis now down into what is 5th place, and 5th place is 11 points, so that will put him on a total of 617, obviously depending on what happens post race evening. But Ben Willis still keeping his horse stuck in as Chris Butcher has managed to find a gap, and he's got past Dan Kell, he's got past Ben Willis, who drops to 6th. But Ben Willis still wanting to fight, and he got a great launch off the line, didn't he?
He did. He really got a good start off the line, and with the rear-wheel drive Subaru put it to good effect. And he's fighting a rearward battle here, unfortunately. RC is the highest rear-wheel drive car, as we see Scott Mitchell going wide into Village, and that's allowed, he's dropped a couple of places, and that's allowed Willis to fight back. But through the link, Willis is properly being beaten up here by both Dan Kell and Scott Sovic as well. He's losing out here, unfortunately. Willis down to 7th place, and Aidan Millward is in 9th. So at the moment, the Independence title looking a bit shaky unless he's able to make up some ground. He's really taken a hammering over the last 2 laps from the front-wheel drive cars, as they're able to assert themselves a little bit better on the second half of the lap and put that advantage score to the fore. As we see Jack Nichols close out to Matt Richards now for 2nd place. So can Nichols see if he can get another step on the podium? Is it possible? We've seen some great pedigree from him previously in the season, so he should be able to take the fight to the Ford Focus, and he's definitely not showing any signs of backing down. Plenty of pressure on Richards, who's already a race 1 winner this evening, so used to the car being heavy with ballast. Nichols doing a really good job.
Yep, Jack Nichols on his best lap in this race so far was over 4/10 slower than Matt Richards. But now that the Mercedes is getting into the slipstream, Richards is the one doing all the hard work, so Nichols doesn't need to push those tyres as hard as how badly they're probably degrading with Matt Richards at the moment, as now he looks towards the inside through into Stowe, then into Vale they come. A little bit more of a tighter apex taken there by Nichols. Through into Vale, now into the chicane. Nichols looking again towards the inside of the number 4 from Sancho Simsport, but closing him down is the number 65 of Smile Power Racing's Chris Butcher. Just behind that is also another Sancho Simsport car in the form of Dan Kell. Ben Willis now up into 6th place and is ahead of Scott Sovic. So that puts him on to effectively 16 points scored. But it just depends on how fast he can push that Subaru Levorg forward. And with the way things are going at the moment, as we now head to Chaz Draycott, he's now recovered up to the final points-paying position, up into 15th place, having started from reverse grid pole, following the draw by our race director earlier on. So he finished in, it was number 12 that was pulled out of the hat. And yeah, up until Farm Curve, he was literally looking at being in the top 3 or 4 and then gets punted out wide, unfortunately. But nevertheless, a good racing driver will always try and do their best. As now, Aidan Millward, you remember there was a particular driver that we had that had the headlights ablaze. It looks like Aidan Millward has now decided to take up that mantra, as there's a great battle here. This is between Ben Willis, Scott Sovic, Scott Mitchell, and Aidan Millward. This is a battle between 6th to what is effectively 9th position as they go through. We're now on to lap number 11 out of 16. Willis goes defensive as now Scott Mitchell looks up the inside of Scott Sovic, going through into Abbey and into the left at Farm. Side by side between the two Scots. And
tight, yeah.
That was very, very tight indeed. But great control there from Scott Mitchell. He keeps Aidan Millward at bay. As a result of that, Scott Sovic now up into 7th, trying to chase Ben Willis down as Jack Nicholls has got a penalty. Nicholls has got a penalty, and now he will drop out of the top 5 at the very least. So that will definitely not help his cause at all towards another podium finish this season. So the likes of Scott Sovic and Ben Willis might possibly have an opportunity to profit from that. So Nicholls now is in the pits. Scott Mitchell as Sovic trying to banzai up the inside of Ben Willis through into what will effectively be 5th position, as now Nicholls is trundling down the pit lane. Sovic towards the inside of Ben Willis. This is now the battle for 5th place. Sovic runs wide. So does Willis. Nicholls comes out right into the middle of this battle. 5-way scrap over what is going to be 5th place. How well timed was that penalty for Jack Nicholls? I mean, seriously.
That's how it works. That's how the ball rolls.
Well, it's definitely how the dominoes definitely fell in the favour of Jack Nicholls there, because he's now got an opportunity of getting another top 5 finish. So at the moment, between that, it's Sovic leading Mitchell, Willis, who's now dropped to 7th, Nicholls in 8th, Millward in 9th place. Mike Cooper looks a little bit further back, down in 10th, ahead of Louis Stewart, as we've got a yellow in sector number 3. As we've got Jean-Michel Loriot and Sandro Ballesteros battling away, and Loriot's taking a bit more curb than probably might be required in order to get the job done. But Ballesteros getting tagged a bit from behind. Loriot will get a penalty for that one, I'm sure of it. But he's doing, you know what, Loriot's actually doing the right thing and sort of slowing down a little bit and trying to let Ballesteros go back past, because, yeah, I think at the end of the day, that's the gentlemanly thing to do.
Indeed it is.
You know, you can't do that in real life, because that BMW would have had a bit more damage to the back of it. So Loriot has now got Ballesteros in the slipstream, going down through in towards Stowe, coming off of the Hangar Straight. Mike Bell now is leading a country mile ahead of Matt Richards as we go back to this this fantastic spellbinding battle here between Sovic, Mitchell, who are 5th and 6th, Willis in 7th, Nicholls who's in 8th, Millward with the headlights ablaze, trying to put someone off, including the one in front of him, Jack Nicholls in 8th. Yellow in sector number 2, so someone looks to have had a bit of a moment there, as that yellow flag has quickly been retracted. We've got a replay coming up, and here is Sandro Ballesteros. Jean-Michel Loriot going... now Loriot has gone wide and has just cut across Sandro Ballesteros, and Ballesteros had the inside run, and that has basically pushed him off into the barriers as a result of that contretemps. And not the way that both drivers will have wanted to have ended their race potentially there, because that depends on how much damage is on. And Loriot, I did say he'd get a penalty. He's now got one issued. So Loriot again in the trenches, let's say, as Ben Willis still trying to keep in touch with the two in front as Scott Mitchell, about 0.4 of a second behind Scott Sovic in the battle for P5. So Mike Bell leads. We're on to lap number 14 out of 16. As Daniel Hyde is just behind. Now that was an E-team. That's an E-team prick car just up ahead. And that's Bradley Brockies in the 105 is round in 20th. As that's Chaz Draycott going all four wheels off onto the grass in top gear, full revs, fully lit.
Come on, Chaz, bring it on. There we go.
He's giggling to himself. He's having a giggle. That's what we like. As old Brockies right off into the barriers on the inside of Stowe. So that's a yellow there, and that has allowed Jack Werrell. Jack Werrell's a few seconds back from this battle. But Draycott could secure another set of points as Ben Willis trying to close on Scott Mitchell. So Scott Mitchell still in 6th place as we now go on board. And just look at the amount of steering input from Ben Willis in the Subaru. Third gear, over 108, over 100. We're now getting towards about over 100 miles an hour. We go under the bridge here on the Hanger Straight, 210 miles and 210 kph is around 130. We're nearly at 150 going into the braking zone for Stowe. That is full commitment. Down to 4th, 140 on the apex. Power through the corner, going through Vale. Yellow in sector number 1, which has now been retracted. We're on to the penultimate lap, the 15th lap of this race. So Ben Willis has this little bit coming through Club Corner. And then 2 laps to go. Looks like, no, we've actually gone into the final lap of the race. And Matt Richards is trying to close on Mike Bell, but it's not happening at the moment. He's fast running out of time.
He's been doing a cracking job, but Mike Bell is staying in front, although Chris Butcher is ahead now of Dan Kell. So the title battle, as far as that's concerned, Butcher manages to maintain his advantage still of staying in front of Kell all 3 races, although we'll see what happens on the final lap. As we're on board now with Chris Butcher, fantastic view coming down the Hanger Straight at 130 odd miles an hour before he hits the brakes, dabs them down to 100, just under down to 80 miles an hour as we go through Stowe. Stay on the left-hand side, grab the curb, and then we make our way down to the chicane for the final time. His teammate Mike Bell in front, leading by just over 2.5 seconds, ahead of Matt Richards. So Richards and Butcher maintaining that they've been able to stay in front of both races as Mike Butcher takes the win in the third race.
Mike Butcher, get your false teeth back in. Mike Bell from Smile Power Racing number 5 takes the victory here. 3 different winners from 3 different races. Matt Richards in 2nd, Chris Butcher in 3rd. Dan Kell rounds out the top 4 ahead of Scott Sovic, Scott Mitchell, Ben Willis. That is 7th position, and that nets him another 9 points. So effectively, that means he's got, I think, just under 10 points to find in the next race. Or the next, if he wins, he's got to win by 10 plus points, I think, to make it comfortable. As Chaz Draycott now will cross the line in 15th.
Bit of help from Jack Werrell, is that?
A little bit of bump from behind there. So, but as Bradley Brockies goes sideways, coming through in towards the end of the chicane, and he will take 19th position. But Mike Bell makes it 3 different winners from 3 different races here at Silverstone International for the penultimate round of the Virtual Motorsport Online Touring Car UK Championship. Let's have a look at the results from race 3, shall we? After 16 laps, Mike Bell took the win ahead of Matt Richards, with Chris Butcher making it 2 Smile Power Racing cars in the top 3, followed by Zancho Simsports' Dan Kell. Scott Sovic, now you did say about the numbers game here. Smile Power Racing, I think, have had a little bit of the advantage in the numbers game this evening. Scott Sovic rounds out the top 5 ahead of Scott Mitchell. Ben Willis from Drag Racing, if he'd have gotten into 3rd, he probably would have taken the independent title this evening, but it rolls on to the final round of the season, as do the other 2 titles. Aidan Millward takes 8th place ahead of Jack Nicholls, Mike Cooper. Daniel Slattery, Louis Stewart takes another points finish in 12th ahead of Lewis McGlade, Daniel Hyde, and last but by no means least in terms of the points paying positions, Chaz Draycott in 15th. Jack Werrell takes 16th ahead of Ed Straw. Then it was Max Spooner and Bradley Brockies in 18th and 19th. Sandro Ballesteros did retire after that incident a bit earlier on. Along with him, Sylvain Vessier, Toby Davis, Matt Webb, and Jean-Michel Loriot was actually disqualified from the race itself. So really, before we wrap things up here at Silverstone International, I think, Phil, you know what, we're gonna do something different. We're gonna make sure that both myself and Phil get a chance to interview some of the drivers. Shall we head down to the interview, mate?
Yeah, let's pop down there, shall we?
Okay. So, first of all, we've got two of the Smile Power Racing duo in the interview booth at the moment. Our Race 3 victor, Mike Bell, and also our Race 2 victor, Chris Butcher. Guys, things very much heating up, and not just in the driver's title perspective for you, Chris, but also between Sancho and Smile Power Racing. After what's been a very good performance, all three drivers in Race 3 made it into the top 5. That's a great haul of points for you guys. But Mike, great win there for Race 3, first of all.
Yeah, thanks. It hadn't been a particularly good event for me, and some bit of crash bang wallop in Race 2 from a number of people just kind of left me in decent contention for reverse grid. And sometimes when you're out of position like that, because I was quick, it didn't come together in qualifying, but I was top 5 throughout most of practice. And when you're at the front of a reverse grid with less weight than everybody behind you, then you just kind of got to go for it and not mess it up, really. And I don't know what happened behind me, but it was mayhem through like turn 2, 3, 4 on the first lap, and me and Ben Willis got a mad lead, and then he just made a mistake into, I think it's the Vale chicane at the end of the lap, and just took my chance and never really looked back.
Yeah, I think it was a bit unfortunate for Chaz, because he'd kept himself in the top 4 going through into farm, and he was the one that got spun out big time. So, but the main thing is he still managed to fight back and still got a points finish. But thanks, Mike, for that. Really appreciate it, and good luck for the finale in 2 weeks' time at Brands Hatch Grand Prix. Chris Butcher, another victory here this evening. Well done, mate. But in terms of the title permutations, you've been ahead of Dan Kell pretty much all the way through this evening, and you go in to Brands Hatch Grand Prix in 2 weeks as effectively the de facto leader of the championship once again. I think the gap's been further extended beyond the 8 points you had coming into this round. How are you feeling after tonight's festivities?
Yeah, really happy with that. To come away with 3 podiums and a win again is great, and obviously to finish ahead of Dan, my main rival, is just what I needed to do, really. Race 3 I was actually a little bit disappointed with. I felt like the win could have been on there, but I just had to be a bit cautious with all the collisions that were going on in front of me, so I had to settle for 3rd there. But yeah, good event overall.
Chris, just to sort of ask on that, are there any sort of challenges you faced today? Because obviously you were really pushing Matt Richards hard in Race 1, and then obviously you've followed that up with a win in Race 2. Anything you were facing challenging in those first 2 races with the car and Matt's weight?
I'm a bit annoyed with myself, actually, because I qualified on pole, and then I let Matt overtake me around the outside of turn 3. But yeah, I just really struggled with the rear tyres on the first lap, cold and maximum ballast, and I was on the hard tyre as well, so that was quite hard. It was a bit of an unknown, but because you're on maximum ballast, and Matt, although he had a lot of weight on, he was obviously a fair bit lighter. It was really difficult to make a move stick, because he got a better drive onto the straight, and I didn't, even in the slipstream, I didn't really have a straight line advantage over him, so a little bit frustrated that I lost the lead in the way that I did. But one of those.
You made it for in Race 2 though.
Well, Chris, Mike, thank you very much for your time and all the very best of luck. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks at the Brands Hatch Grand Prix finale. Well done this evening, boys.
Very much.
Thanks.
Right, so I think we've got to speak to some more drivers. So let's have a chat with the drivers that really caught our attention all the way through this race. So I think let's have a chat with Sancho Sim Sports' Matt Richards, shall we? Well, Matt, definitely in the thick of things this evening with Chris and Mike amongst others, but really good performance. Obviously, this really does help with regards to your challenge towards what is effectively going to be third in the championship. But do you still think that there's every possibility that you could get even closer to the top two come Brands Hatch? But I know that the title's going to be a bit of a tall order.
I know that points-wise, I'm completely out of the game. So I'm a bit of a pawn in the game for Dan, really. That's the main aim. I think that was pretty evident in race 2. And at the end of the day, there's still a team's title to go for as well. So I think we've got the lead in that at the moment. It might have slimmed down a little bit after today's round. The whole Smile Power crew were just rapid today, and they had a little bit on us. So I think we're going to have to go back to the drawing board a little bit, ready for Brands Hatch, and come back a bit better prepared. I
mean, is Brands Hatch for the Ford Focus a very good match in terms of how you can get the car set up? Obviously, we're going to have, the full GP loop rather than Indy like we had at the beginning of the season. Is that something that's going to be able to play to the Focus's strengths in a couple of weeks' time, do you think?
We think so. We know that there's a few things in the setup that we can tighten up, just a few things that we're feeling through the races that we were working on. The setup between race 1 and race 3 was completely different. Just the amount of stuff that we were trying to work on, and the stuff that we were struggling with tonight, just trying to sort of iron those out. So yeah, there's plenty to work on. Brands GP is always a track that I've run quite well out of. It's a commitment track, so it's something that I really like. So hopefully we can get the car in a better position and take a better fight to the Smile Power guys.
Well, yeah. Phil, I think you've got something you want to ask Matt.
Yeah, I was just going to ask Matt how he found race 1, because you had Chris Butcher literally tied to the back of the Focus for almost the whole of the race. How much pressure was that, and to try and cope with the Focus as it was handling?
It was a lot. There was a few things in the car that I was struggling with. It might have been evident on the stream, but I was starting to struggle with the brakes a little bit in the middle of the race. And there was just a few things that I wasn't happy with the setup with the rear end. Just I couldn't get the car handling how I liked it. So yeah, it was intense, but the international layout's a hard circuit to pull off a clean pass on. So as long as I stuck the car in the right place, it was okay.
Well, Matt, thanks very much for your time, and all the very best of luck at the Brands Hatch Grand Prix finale in a couple of weeks.
Thank you very much.
Right. So I think we're going to get this guy in. I feel really, really sorry. Let's get Chaz in. Really want to have a chat with him. Mr. Draycott. I feel so sorry for you, buddy. You get a couple of good points finishes, and then it all goes wrong going through farm. I think you got taken out by one of the Mercs. I mean, it looks like they were trying to say something to you, weren't it?
Yeah, I joked that Jack Nichols doesn't want me to steal his job, and he just thought, I'm going to send this guy just to send him. But
so he's made it clear then.
I not made it clear. I mean, Karun took me off last week through no fault of his own, but yeah, tonight, oh mate, them Mercedes, it's like there's a magnet on the back of me, Ford. But no, it was still good fun though. It's great to be out there and doing this, and it's feisty touring car racing, so can't expect anything less.
Yeah, I'm wondering if your good friend Mr. Addison, please, But obviously a good couple of points finishes this evening. You've got some points, even though you made your kill. But to have a bit of a laugh and a giggle, we did see you've been streaming on Twitch as well throughout the broadcast.
I hope they didn't show any of that on the broadcast live with audio.
To be honest, no, they didn't show anything. They showed it live, but it was just me and Phil talking. So you're golden on that one, mate. You're golden on that one.
I'm such a potty mouth when I'm not commentating.
Oh, don't look. From one commentator to another, that's definitely completely. I completely understand that. We do like a bit of banter, us commentators, don't we? At the end of the day.
And to be fair, Jack's actually just messaged me and said sorry. So fair play to the guy. Because to be honest, I was told that that's just R factor physics. You know, you get hooked together and that's it. So yeah. No, I appreciate that, Jack, if you are still watching, mate, so thank you very much.
Let's talk about him for a moment, because obviously it's his debut here, and I think he pulled one of the I think he pulled a blinder. He went around the outside. I think it was when he was battling with you, and I think it was race 1. He planted around the outside going through the first part of the chicane before club, and I thought, that's commitment. You ran wide, powered around the outside of him, and I just thought, that's great. 2 commentators on R Factor 2 just giving it the berries.
Oh yeah. It's nice to be able to have battles like that. I mean, I'm going to use the swear word and say that I come from an iRacing background mainly with my sim racing, but you know, on iRacing, a tiny bit of contact and the cars are just unsettled no matter what, and they get away from you. And in this, you know, you can get the argy-bargy, you can have the door-to-door contact, and you can carry on. And especially with the front-wheel drive cars as well, you can just plant it and save it. So it's a lot of good fun, to be honest.
Yeah, and also, I must say, mate, I know I've messaged you personally. I say this to you, from commentator to commentator, great job on the ADAC Total 24 Hours of the Nürburgring Nordschleife this past weekend, mate. Well done.
Thank you, mate.
Great job.
Thank you very much. It was an absolute honour to do it. It really was. And it was a lot of hard work, and it was a long few days, but yeah, it was a hell of an...
Well done, Chaz. Great job this evening, mate, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time at Brands Hatch.
Yeah, cheers. I don't know what happened to my push to talk then, but yeah, thank you very much, mate. Nice one, buddy. See you soon, boys. Oh, I'd like to also thank Mr. Blobby as well for just sort of inspiring me to put in that performance tonight.
There we go. You heard it here first.
Cheers, boys.
No worries. Cheers, Chaz.
Yes.
Well, I think really we should really end things there, to be completely honest with you. But Phil, a fantastic race evening here at Silverstone International. Some great banter in the post-race interviews, especially with Chaz there as well. Oh, hang on. Let's bring Scott Sovic in, actually. Evening, Scott. Well done this evening, especially in race 3, where all 3 Smart Power Racing cars actually got into the top 5. That was a bit of a great battle, I think, between you. I think it was also Ben Willis, Scott Mitchell, Jack Nichols, Aidan Millward had his headlights ablaze, but you managed to get the better of all of them there. Well done.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. I mean, I'm not too displeased with race 3 there. Considering I was on the prime, I was a bit concerned I was going to have a bit too much tyre wear at the end there, but I held on to it, and as you said, that was a very nice battle I had with a lot of them fighting for 5th place, and hats off to them. But they gave it their best, but I was fortunate enough to be able to hold on to it at the end.
And how are you looking at things for Brands, Scott, with regards to the Astra? Do you think it will be as competitive a car as it was today at Silverstone? How do you see that working out in 2 weeks' time?
I don't think it'll be. I think it'll be a lot closer between us and Smile Power and Zanshaw. But I'm not thinking that the Astra is going to be a particularly bad car around Brands. I just hope that we can use the tires to use the tires to their ultimate potential, and hopefully, just pip Zanshaw at the end of the day, and both in the teams and the drivers' championship.
Cool.
Well, Scott, like I say, congratulations on some great getting your elbows out and giving it the rest of them give. So all the very best of luck in 2 weeks' time at Brands Hatch for the season finale.
Thank you very much.
Right. So I think take 2 here, Phil.
Yeah, take 2.
We'll just head out of the interview booth and just quickly just close things out here this evening. So that is it. A big thank you to everyone that took part this evening here at the penultimate round of the Virtual Motorsport Online Touring Car UK Championship, being held here at the virtual setting of Silverstone International. Mr. Kinch,
Mr. Goldschmidt.
Once again, your catchphrase has definitely been... I'm going to announce Phil's catchphrase in the terms of a hashtag. Hashtag breathe.
Breathe. Yeah, I'm slowly sitting going, wow. I can't wait for Brands in 2 weeks. That really is going to be an absolute nail-biting end to the season, and I really think we are going to be treated to 3 fantastic races in 2 weeks' time. These guys have absolutely performed to the limit tonight. Really impressed with what they've been able to do, and looking forward to more.
Well, that is it. One final hurrah. 2 weeks' time, the 13th of October 2020, we will crown our inaugural champions of the Virtual Motorsport Online Touring Car UK Championship for 2020. Our Drivers' Champion, our Independent Drivers' Champion, and the Teams' Champion. Join myself and Phil Kinch in 2 weeks' time, the 13th of October. Put that date in your diaries. You don't want to miss it. And above all, on behalf of myself and Phil, thank you for watching. Good night. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Thank you once again. Goodbye.